Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in just one moment. Okay, recording has started and we are live. Great. So to everyone on Facebook and YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. We are glad that you are here with us today, or rather this evening. So the first thing we're going to do is ask Kevin to pray and then just give us a welcome, and we'll get right into our session tonight.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you all for joining us, Mr. Ron, our brother Ron, for being here, all the others who are chiming in on live stream. We're so grateful and thankful for you. And we just want to say a quick prayer and ask the Lord to have grace upon us as we sort of engage in this subject of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. So let's bow. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you and we praise you for this day. We give you all the glory, honor, and praise that you so justly deserve. We know, Father God, that this is the day that you have made, and it's been a privilege to rejoice and be glad in it. We ask that as we come to the end of our day for some of us and beginning of our day for others, depending where we are in the world, that you are in our midst. And we thank you for just gracing us with the opportunity to share on this vital subject that's impacting the entire globe. So, Father, we ask that your divine wisdom will reign supreme over our own wisdom, and that you will speak to all of us and help us to understand and to properly discern what it is and what we should be doing and for such a time as this, as it impacts our workplaces, our friendships, and our communities. So, Father, let your will be done, and we be sure to give you all the praise, glory, and honor for it. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, so as your MC host for tonight, I just want us to review a little bit about the online training and the value that we think that it offers to everyone. So I am going to go around the room, and of course, I'll start with our illustrious leader, Mr. Kevin, then Lonnie, then Neil, and I'll wrap up. So if you guys could give 2 minutes just on the value of the online training, why you think it's important, what you hope people will get from it, and that'll bring up some conversations. Just give us a review, and then we'll go into some Q&A that had already come in. So Kevin, you go first.
Yeah, so this is why the training is important. The training is important because we are being bombarded with messages. Some messages of victimization, some messages of oppression, some messages of colonialism. What is really the truth? All of these messages that we're being bombarded with have a tendency to divide us and not unite us. I think it's much more powerful for us as individuals, for us as corporations, communities, families, to rally around truth first and foremost, and to rally around the things that will unite us, not divide us. So what the training does is it provides you the truth of history and background and proper context, so you can understand how we've arrived to the point in time where we are, and you can actually mitigate a lot of these false narratives that are being spread around about racism, white supremacy, what do you call the R word? What is it? Recompense, not recompense, but when people want to be compensated for what happened in the past.
Reparations.
All of these subjects we cover in our training. So it's going to be important that everyone takes a look at the training. These are subjects that are covered in intimate detail. Also, we do a little covering on the direct impact of DEI. DEI is really an overarching theme for racial unity and CRT and that kind of thing. So we cover aspects of that so you understand how this whole thing comes together, and how we can actually unite around the truth as opposed to be divided by false narratives. That's my 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Lonnie, you're next.
Yes, ditto to everything that Kevin said. As well, there's not much room to add anything else except that one of those who responded to what we sent out concerning this particular online meet response, and Dr. Ruth Ann, who was very excited and wore my ear out on the phone for about an hour about her excitement about this. And the only question that she wanted to know concerning the audience, is it a target audience or general audience, and just exactly who are we going to be disseminating this information to? And I thought that was a great question to throw to the team to respond to. I'm done.
Okay. I'm going to pass it to Neil because we're going to go around everyone, and then I'll answer the questions because I have all the questions here. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think part of the issue that we have today is the whole aspect of social justice, white privilege, what is real racism, what are the real races, all these things play into it. I mean, if you don't understand what your terminology is, then you don't know what you're fighting. You're just fighting this boogeyman out there called racism, and you're fighting this white privilege, and you've got to act socially, and you've got to, you have to bring social justice. So one of the things that we do, one of the many things we do in the class is we kind of go through and we talk about what social justice is compared to moral justice or true justice. The social justice, you can throw a lot of stuff in there. For instance, is social justice making sure that people have food to eat? Is social justice, or is it making sure that your rights are not violated? So we cover all this in great detail, and we explain to that you could look at any issue that comes up and you can say, oh, this is not a moral justice issue. This is a social justice issue, which, as you'll find out, leads right into socialism. And that's where they're going. It really ends up being communism, socialism, and things like that, where the government has more control and the government decides who gets fed, and then they tie racism into all this. So that's one of the things that we do. The other thing that we do is also we talk about how we can truly bring people together, because we don't want, we've talked to a lot of people on how at the end of their conference, they actually are more nervous to talk to end of their DEI training. They're more nervous to talk to Black people. You're like, wow, I have to watch out for microaggressions. I have to watch out for ethnocentricity. I got to watch out for all these things. And it actually alienates friendships that were actually there before. And so that's one of the things that's another thing that we actually start dealing with. And at the end of the training, you're like, wait, I don't need to be afraid of my Black friend. I don't need to be afraid of what I say to him, because we have the same goals and this is where we're at.
That's good. That's good. So one of the things that, not one, but some of the few of the things that I think are beneficial with the training is that it's paced in such a way, it's self-paced, first of all, right? And so you always have continual access to the content, which means you can go back and review. It means that you can listen to it and then stop, and I truly wouldn't recommend sitting and taking it all in at one time. I mean, you're going to get the most out of it if you listen to a module and then step away from it and come back. Think about it. If you have questions, you can always reach out to us, but take it slow in the process because you have the opportunity. That's one of the beautiful things about online training, is that you can really take it at your own pace, listen, rewind, and listen again, and you can take notes. And if you didn't catch something, just hit the rewind and take notes and keep listening. So one of the best benefits for that. The other is something that Kevin says in like the first module, and even Neil reiterates it in his module, is that you can't take anti-racism or diversity and equity and inclusion training from someone who's racist, right? So if someone is already biased and already bought into that Blacks need special privileges and has already bought into right fragility, and because it seems that the people who have all these biases are supposed to be teaching these anti-bias classes. Absolutely just seems like ironic, if you ask me. So what I appreciate about the way that our training happens in content is that you do not have people who are biased giving the directions, giving the instructions. So I'm about to go into, okay, I'm about to go into our live Q&A. We've got tapping somewhere.
Is there some thumping somewhere?
I'm not sure which one of our people is doing that because,
Stop.
hold on. Okay. All right, so we've got that muted. We're good with that. So, okay. Let's continue. I don't know. I guess it depends on your receiver, but we did get a message that our sound is not good. If you are out there listening, just let us know if you can hear us. This is our first time using this new platform, Meetin, and we're excited about the product. We're excited about the owners and their beliefs, the way it's set up. As with rollouts, you have a few bugs, but I think they've gotten a bit under control. And this is our first time streaming from this platform. So I ask that you give us a little bit of mercy and grace as we work through this. Okay, so he's saying my video and sound is not coming through clearly. You guys, are you getting that? I'll try to, if it's not streaming properly, it should be, because I feel myself fine. It is true that I am in South Africa right now and it's like 4:30 in the morning. So I love you guys because I'm up with makeup and everything. I won't tell you what time I got up so that I could be this cheerful. So I apologize, Ron, if the sound and video is not coming through. I really need to look at it at the end to determine what the quality is. I don't think it is. I don't think it's the Wi-Fi signal, because the rest of my team seems to see me okay. So
yeah, there is latency and you know, there's latency, and you could tell that the Wi-Fi is off a little bit by a few you know, quarter of a second or whatever. But you know, we hear your voice and it's just a little bit sketchy, but it's fine. I mean,
all right. I'll see what I can do about that. I have a VPN on. Maybe I'll turn that off. That might help cut down on some of the latency. So let me get to a question, and then see what we'll do about fixing that. So I'm just going to throw this out to the group, and anyone can answer. So we had a question about, why are we teaching about diversity? Is that a valid topic? Is it a valid conversation? Everybody knows that we're different. What is the sense of like pointing that out? I think that's what the person was meaning when they wrote it. So if anyone from the team wants to take that question on why we're even talking about diversity.
Well, go ahead, Kevin, unless you have.
no, go ahead. I'll wait.
Well, I think the most obvious thing is the reason we're talking about it is because everybody's talking about it. And everybody's talking about it. Most of the people talking about it in a bad way. And in other words, as though it's interesting how they phrase the whole diversity thing. We are all diverse, and you have to accept every different diverse kind of person, and then they lump everything into it that is immoral or and then they lump color and ethnicity into morality, and they mix everything up. And it's very clear to understand that diversity in color and ethnicity is fine, but when you start saying diversity in morality, now this is a completely different ball of wax, right? If as a Christian, you're supposed to accept people of other races and other cultures, but you're not supposed to accept sin and immorality. So it's very important that we start phrasing these things and saying, look, yes, diversity in some cases, no diversity in other cases. And then the worst thing they do is they start making diversity a barrier between people. And what's funny about, if you understand what they're doing, is after you leave some of this diversity training, if you're all into diversity, you leave the training more of a racist than when you came. And let me explain that. Let me unpack that. You leave more of a racist simply because what creates racism is the non-mingling of multiple different ethnicities. I don't hang out with Mexicans, or I don't hang out with blacks because, they're different from me. And you've created this, well, I don't want to hang out with blacks because, I might insult them, or they might, and then this whole diversity thing makes you've seen this narrative, white people are haters, and so what you're doing is you're actually creating a sort of racism rather than combining the people and creating unity. And so that's why we have to talk about it, because they're talking about it the wrong way.
That's good. So what I like to confirm, and actually the book that I just wrote that was just released about a month ago, DEI in 3D, goes into a lot of what this is, but fundamentally, we should all honor. I mean, the kingdom, God's kingdom is diverse, right? Diversity from the context of we all, sameness is not something that is truly God ordained. Sameness doesn't demonstrate the breadth and depth of God's glory on each individual life. We are all the same in only two ways: in dignity and worth in God's eyes, and should be honored as that, with dignity and worth. We all have equal amount of dignity and equal amount of worth. We should all be able to say that. That's good. The diversity in the context of making sure that everyone has equal outcomes is really not diversity at all. That's trying to create sameness and undermine what God ordained, which was skills, talents, and abilities that each individual has for God's purposes. And so when we demand equal outcome, we undermine God's plan, and we undermine the richness and glory that could be gleaned from many very diverse skills, life experiences, many diverse opportunities to really look at problems from different points of view and incorporate that into an actual good solution that everybody could unify around. So the reason why diversity is important is because it's a menagerie of God's glory being demonstrated, and how that can all come together and coalesce into a unified body. Diversity from the standpoint of the world's point of view today is they want to basically ensure that everyone has the same outcome, irrespective of skill sets, abilities, or anything like that, or competencies. And that is really not diversity at all. That's really, something else. And we go into a lot of detail about what that something else is. So it's an important distinction that we must be able to walk and talk through and logically agree together. To what degree are we going to try to unify around this notion of diversity? I think it's if you have, I've talked to some people on the far right that say, look, we shouldn't spend any time with diversity. Let just people organically grow their organizations and grow their communities, and just diversity will happen. I don't quite subscribe to that. And on the far left side, where they say, no, we need to force diversity. We need to put these people in these areas, in these positions, and that, so everybody has equal outcomes in this kind of a scenario. And I definitely don't subscribe to that. I think we should, diversity is much more rich, but I think that there has to be a certain amount of intentionality, that we recognize the value in one another to where we would want to, extend our friendship and extend our competencies and grow competencies based on other experiences. And that's where we want to be, because everybody wins when we can truly honor that. And so that's why I think diversity is a hot topic. It's going to be here for a while. We need to make sure that as it's embraced, holistically and in a way that dignifies humanness as opposed to undermine it.
Great. Comment from Ron. He says America is one of the most diverse countries in the earth, and the people that are pushing DEI are trying to divide us. DEI is division, entitlement, and intolerance. Oh, that's good, Ron. I like that. I think that this would bring us right into, the person sent another question as well, and he asked about inclusion. I think what we can think about when we are looking at diversity, we're looking at inclusion, I think the reason now that we have to have these conversations is because there has been so much thrown in the air about division, right? If you've gone into countries or situations or environments where multiplicity of ethnicities, where division and power by race has not ever been an issue, you don't find the need to have the conversations about diversity, right? But when you go into countries and environments where there has been power and rulership by race or by class, then it's left its residue, right? So how do we undo that? How do we let people know that that used to be the case, but we don't do that anymore, and we can move forward? Now, I think as a nation, we were doing that slowly, maybe not as fast as some people would like, but I think you're always going to have opportunists, right? People who are in it for their own self-interest. And so what we've seen is, we are America, and we have free speech here, and everybody has an opportunity to say what they want, feel what they want, create a group and congregate. I mean, we call it freedom of religion. And so some people have begun to create their own religion around the idea of personal gain or gain for their particular group, right? And so because it's a double-edged sword, right? But freedom of speech is not something that we're ever going to want to give up, right? It's so that we think we can curb, those who are causing dissension. What we have to do now and work harder at now is educating. And the best place that starts is at home, and in our schools would have been nice, but that has changed tremendously, because those people who are in it for themselves have, definitely infiltrated their material and beliefs into our public schools. So
Regina, I just want to jump in here.
yes,
I think it's important that we identify that almost every nation has examples of this class distinction, race distinction. Like for instance, India, you've got the caste system, you've got the fair-skinned northerners in the north and the darker-skinned southerners like me in the south, right? You've got let's look at Sudan. In Sudan, you had the folks in northern Sudan, which were the Arabs, hating the blacks in the southern Sudan, and vice versa. You can go to Ethiopia, you had the Muslims against the Christians, and you can go to Ireland, you had the Catholics against the Protestants. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to find that us against them mentality. And I think in America, we have seen the least amount of that because almost everybody, I mean, there are more immigrants have come to America in the last century than have ever come to America in the 2, 3 centuries, 4 centuries before that. And not all of them are white. A lot of them are Nigerian, Ghanaian, Indian, I mean, everything, right? So the diversity here we have is not only an immense amount of diversity, but the fact that all these people are getting along really well. And it points to the fact that the issue between the African Americans in America and the whites in America is not a real issue. It's a manufactured issue. And we've seen that over again. Yes, it was a real issue back when the KKK was around. Yes, it was a real issue with the Jim Crow days. But as we're seeing more and more as we come into the new thing, now they're manufacturing that hate, that distrust. They're creating that. Yes, there is black flight, and we talk about that in the conference, in the sessions. Yeah, we explain why it's there and how to solve it.
That's so very true, Neil. I'm reminded of a time I lived in Northern California in a community that was east of the San Francisco Bay Area, and small community, 2 high schools, and they were opposing teams and crosstown rivals. And they would have football games during football season. And if you were to go to the local burger stands and, after the games, it would be packed full of young people, teenagers and so forth, and cars and what have you. And the community was distinct because it had a large Filipino population. It had a sizable black population as well, but quite a few Filipinos and whites as well. And they're all gathered together at this burger stand. The thing I noted was that you could not make the assumption that if you saw a black girl standing next to a black young man that they were a couple, because more than likely she was dating the Latino boy and the Filipino boys were dating the white girls or the black girls. And it was the most amazing thing that I saw. I wish I'd had a video camera to cover it, but it gave a picture of where we are as a nation. And this was not too many years ago. So it is a false narrative that they put out. Diversity has become very divisive in terms of how it's deemed, the way Kevin outlaid it. I mean, the Holy Scriptures depicts a diversity of individuals from various walks of life and how they all interact. And as Kevin used to point out, and you as well, Neil, that if there was division, it wasn't because of the color of the skin, it was because of what particular nation you came from or what group you were with that caused consternation with the other group. But today in this nation, who is the most diverse nation, in my opinion, in the world, and I would be so bold as to say probably in the history of the world, we have this agenda where they're trying to drive a division. One more point I wanted to mention is that it's divisiveness, and I wrote down it creates a defensiveness that is strummed up in the populace as they're given this propaganda. And I have a niece, and when my niece was about 10 years old, I was talking to her, and I happened to use the term oh, that's like a letting a fox guard the hen house. And you know what her response to me was? She said, Uncle Lonnie, that's sexist. I saw Kevin turning his head. That's what I did, like a dog that doesn't understand. And I said, excuse me? That's sexist, Uncle Lonnie. Well, where did that come from? That came from her school, and she went to public schools. Yeah. And so she was in a defensive nature, and I'm her uncle. He told me it was sexist. So I tried to explain it to her finally. I said, when you get older, you'll understand what that means. But it speaks to what takes place within our school systems, how they're indoctrinating our children. My final point, Kevin, you posted something earlier today that linked to that mom that went into that classroom and set that teacher straight. Man, I was jumping up and down screaming because she says, you're not here to indoctrinate my child. You're here to teach my child math. And that's where we have to get. And she took the propaganda that was on the wall and she ripped it off the wall and put it in the trash. That's where we have to get to as a nation, because I think people are fed up, but there has to be a platform that's able to disseminate this information to them. And I think God has been gracious enough to give that platform to us as be one of the ones that are the truth speakers.
Very good.
Really good. That's really good. Next question. So, I think we've kind of talked about this, but this came in via email. So why capitulate about things? Why even think about arguing? Why not just say, why not walk away? Why even get into this debate? Why even create online training? I think we've kind of answered it, but if anyone just wants to make it clear.
Yeah. So we have to understand that we are literally in a cultural war. And it's a literal war. This is not, like tiddlywinks or, just different opinion. This is a literal cultural war, and it's majorly shifting globally. Major factions within cultures and societies around the world. And if you are in a war and you know that you have a side that is really aggressively coming against you, and you just capitulate, you just go and walk off the battlefield or retreat, they're going to take all that territory. And that in a real practical sense, that means they're going to take your children, your community, your family, and fully engulf them into the propaganda or whatever it is on their side. So those that we are in war against get stronger and stronger and stronger if we walk away from the battle. This is not a war we're going to walk away from. Our children should mean more to us. Our faith should mean more to us. Our community should mean more to us than for us to capitulate and say, well, whatever. That's how we're in this situation right now in the first place. Because we haven't, we just kind of said, well, people just do you, okay, whatever. And now you see how aggressive they are in the school districts. How aggressive they are at these city councils. They are full on Marxists, and the masks are off and they don't care. They're just telling you, look, this is what we're going to do. Think about how aggressive they are at the World Economic Forum, these globalists, and with all of these major players. I mean, they're saying, look, we want to depopulate the planet. That's our goal. And we're going to do it by 2030. And, we're going to take it down from 8 billion to 800 million. Now, that should have shaken a lot of people up. Like, how you're saying this publicly, like you really want to kill people, 90% of us. And there's like, oh, just do you. Okay, whatever. These people are serious. This is not a game that we're in. This is a real war that we have to take seriously. So just capitulating, walking away, or just not engaging in it, it's who we are as individuals, who our family means to us, who our faith foundations mean to us, our communities mean to us, should mean that we stay in this thing and that we really push back, that we combat the false narratives, the lies, the propaganda, the brainwashing. These are all ways that they've got a real stronghold in our communities and in our families, and we need to push back. and try to, get our families back. So that's why we're in this.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at it, the way this whole DEI, CRT, all this stuff is designed to destabilize the population, right? Destabilize the functioning of individuals or small businesses. I mean, why go into downtowns and burn down buildings and burn down businesses? Why disrupt all that, especially when you're burning down black businesses mostly? It's to cause problems. It's to cause racial strife. It's to cause. So that's one. The second thing is they're going to now start pushing this. So let's say you're a Christian business. You say, well, I'm just not going to participate. Well, guess what? You want to get that loan? You want to get that business loan? They're going to make you tell you that you've done your DEI training, that all your people have been trained. Well, you can say yes, they have been trained. But you don't need to say which way they've been trained, but you've been trained the right way. So you can play their game and not get caught by it. That's number one. The real solution is for us to take back our government. But until such a time as that, we are going to have to do this. And the only way we'll take back our government is by having people in government who understand the reasons why they're pushing DEI. If you're just, oh yeah, they're just trying to make everybody equal and people are clueless as to the real intentions of DEI, then when they get in the government, they'll say, oh yeah, this is a program, we'll just let it keep going. You've got to understand the reasons, you've got to understand the machinations, you've got to understand the evil intent, and we explain all that in the conference, in the seminar, in the class.
Great. Just two quick questions off topic. I can answer this one. How long do they have access? And so once you purchase it, you have lifetime access. You can't share it with anybody because it is tied to your personal account, but you will always have lifetime access to it. And the second one is, what's the age group? And I don't know if we ever really thought about that when we were recording the online training. I don't know that there's anything in there that's inappropriate for children.
I mean, I'd let my 10-year-old watch that. In fact, she knows most of the content anyway.
You expose your 10-year-old to really good conversation. And by that, that's a compliment to the way that Neil and his wife raise their children, right? Their children are well read. Their children are homeschooled, so that probably tells you a lot. And they could probably debate with the best of us on many different topics.
Oh yeah.
So again, there's nothing in there that's inappropriate for children. However, you probably would want to watch it with them, right? So that you can have the conversations, you can answer questions, you guys can have a family dialogue about it. But yeah, there's nothing that's age appropriate about that. The courses will start October 1st. They'll be available. You can go to our website, eblmraisist.net. We'll make sure that we put that out on our Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn pages. But eblmraisist, RAZIST.net. You can find the information. Click on the menu item for training. It'll give you more information. And of course, we'll be talking about it across all of our social media platforms. The next question is, and I'm bringing this up from our video last time, but so if I'm just a single mom, or if I'm a small family business, right? Maybe I'm just a floor shop. Not like a floor shop is bad. I don't mean it that way, but I'm a floor shop and we have an employee staff of 5. They're all family. Do we need this training? And why?
Yeah. So good question. So what's interesting about DEI and racial unity and that is that it's a global phenomenon. It is pervasive, meaning it's everywhere. It is not optional. You're impacted by it. So when the Biden administration says we have an all of government approach, meaning every department and every division has a budget and a line item to do racial unity and DEI training, and then to carry it out to the extent that everybody that does business with the federal government should be checked to see if they are participating as well, then you know you have a real issue. And that's where we are. This administration has made doubled down and said, look, I think they've spent about the DEI offices in the feds, about $700 million that they've allocated for these types of programs. So, well, let me finish real quick, and I'll hand it over to you. So what happens is, and then globally we have ESG standards, which is environmental, social, and governance, which means that they will give you favorable loans or give you a loan at all at the ESG level, which all of our banks now are participating in. If you have a positive social score, where you get a positive social score is you say, look, me and all my employees have gone through DEI training or racial training. And so that's how you get a loan. So it's impacting you that way. In your school, it's impacting your children because they're being taught these controversial subjects about inclusion and this and that. There may be even incompetent teachers that are not fully proficient in the subject matter, but they're more social activists. And so your kids are being more indoctrinated about social activism as opposed to mathematics, English or whatever. So everywhere is being impacted by this subject. And so you need to know so you can see, so you can begin to intuit when something's off kilter and begin then to do something about it. So that's why this whole training is important, because your children, your banker, your government, all of these entities are going to be at some level asking you to participate in this thing. And so you need to be able to say, yeah, no, I already got I get it. I went to every Black Life Matters, been fully trained in their modules. I continue to take their training. It's wonderful. And then you understand what's behind it. See, the other thing that we're exposing with our training is strategy behind it. And when you know the strategy, now you can really, you can develop your own countermeasures and moves so you can combat it. Sorry, Neil, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to throw in there, and not only are they, even if you don't do any work for the government says their contractors have to hire contractors themselves or suppliers. So you might just be the guy who supplies a janitorial product, but they got a check mark for, all our contractors, all our subcontractors are also compliant in this DEI stuff. So that has also been implemented in various places. So you, let's say you work for, you don't work for the bank, but you supply products to the bank. Well, if there's a checkbox that the bank has to fill, it's going to affect you.
Good points. I was going to ask another question. Who wants to speak a little bit more even about personal or business banking? So like, let's do the florist shop. They just have their own florist shop, but they want to, get a business loan. How's that going to affect them?
Yeah, so if you go to banks like, so there's some very, very large multinational trillion-dollar banking entities that actually loan money to our, U.S. banks. Those would be like Vanguard and State Street, BlackRock, huge financial institutions. And they loan money conditional that, hey, this money is being provided to your regional bank or multinational bank, but you have to make sure that you maintain your ESG scores. And therefore, that means for you as a bank, you're going to ask these questions to your local florist. Hey, you want a loan? Okay, I know it's just a small loan. You said you only want $15,000 and you'll pay it off in the next 6 months. Just a short-term loan. We get it, no problem. We're in the middle of a crazy recession and that kind of thing. So we'll give you a loan, but we want to ask, I know it's just a small business, but how many have you and your employees gone through diversity training? You know, and if so, who gave it to you? Did you get certified? And if you don't have any answers to that could be a problem, because these banks are incentivized to give loans to people who are playing the game, the global game, which is more diversity, racial unit, racial, that kind of racial training. And they want to just ask the question, and they are beginning to ask the question. I've had a church a year ago told me that their auditor came, and that was the first thing he asked them. Have you, Mr. Pastor, and all your folks here, have you gone through any racial or diversity type training? And if so, how many? And then their second question was, what's the trans policy? So these are things that they're enforcing at one level or another, and it's inescapable, folks. This is just the way it is right now, unfortunately. But we've got to learn how to navigate it. We got to learn what it is. We can't just be ignorant and just say, well, I don't know why they denied our loan. We got a lot of assets. We got a lot of this and that. Well, if you don't answer the question right, and they don't get any scoring from your loan, they'll say, we'll pass. We'll go. These other folks, they've taken all the training. They check all the boxes. We'll give the loan to them. So it's a crazy world we're in right now, and we all have to know what's going on. And ignorance is no longer bliss. Ignorance is to your detriment. So we have to just understand what's happening.
And just so you know, it's not that we're capitulating to this, because we're fighting back, right? The whole idea here is we're not saying, oh yeah, everything that we're teaching you is contrary to what they want you to learn. So we're not really rolling over in any sense of the word. We're just allowing you to check the box the right way. And of course, the long-term solution is, as I said, get enough of our population with this training to get into office and stop all this nonsense. But we're not there yet, and that has to happen.
So those are good questions about how much does it cost, and where, and how does my business sign up? So the basic one person per person cost for the modules, there are 4 modules, just about 4 hours in total. It's $50 for the whole online training, whether you take it one time or you space it out. If you want a certificate from us, there are a set of questions you'll have to answer and pass in order for us to give you the certificate, because we want to make sure that you're paying attention.
And a couple of books, Woke Up and DEI in 3D that you have to buy, and other stuff, but it's relatively simple.
And so we explain that to you. Everything is laid out before you pay, so you know exactly what it is that you're getting. I also want to say that if you have groups, so our group discounts start at 100 people, so 100 plus. So for small churches, mid-sized companies, probably mid-sized churches, mid-sized companies, there's an even larger discount if you go 500 plus seats. So if you are a larger corporation, we can set it up for you that you pre-purchase your seats, and then as people sign up, you just enroll them with us, and we send them out the information so that they can sign in. Very straightforward. You can contact us. You can email me at info@everyblm.com. If you happen to know Neil, Kevin, or Lonnie, just send them an email. You can message us on any of our social media platforms as well. And we will get back to you about signing up your groups if you have large groups. Churches can band together. So if you're a small church, or if you're a group of small businesses in a consortium, and you guys all talk and say, hey, we feel like this would be good for us, definitely talk to us about that. And if you are, even community centers and municipalities, I don't know as far as like a PO, you'd need to contact us and we would work with your municipality. So let's say like you're a soup kitchen or something, and you want to make sure that all your people are DEI trained. Just talk to us about what's needed from your municipality so that we're able to give you that information. Anyone else have some points or questions? I don't think I have any more questions, but anyone else want to say anything or add?
I was just going to add that going back to churches again, and churches that are politically astute, if I can use that term, or there are individuals within the church because of the eldership who are encouraging their congregants to speak up and be active. If you see things taking place, like I mentioned, Kevin sending us that link to the video of the mom spoke up in the classroom, and there are communities with things that are going on down in Southern California. I believe it was Temecula. There was a woman who spoke up on the transgender issue and confronted the city council. I believe it was the city council. And then also in that same area, and I mentioned a church in our last session that was growing very quickly, and it's going to be looking for loans and things like that.
Lonnie,
So,
just a quick correction. That was a school, actually, it was a school board.
excuse me.
The city council, Temecula City Council is actually a very good city council. I know the mayor and a couple of people on there, so they're right on. In fact, Kevin and I met with some of them. But I think of a school board, although they did take over a school board completely, and they've converted the school board into a righteous school board. So,
I stand corrected. You're right. My memory's jogged. It might have been Murrieta, but good folks down there in that part of California. But the church I was mentioning is in that area, and so they are. As I was talking to one of the elders, they want their people to be educated on the talking points and so forth, so they can effectively push back, so they can be like the members of the city council in Temecula and those other communities they're actually pushing back on the agenda. So he wants their congregants to be well informed and trained up, so they can speak from a knowledgeable standpoint. And you'll get that if you take our training. You'll get that. You'll have the talking points. You'll be able to speak from a reference of authority and push back. Because when you come back with truth and based on knowledge, the only thing they can do is get emotional and scream at you and call you nasty names, but they can't stand and hold on to their particular position.
That's right.
That's good. We do offer in-person training as well. You need to contact us about that. So if it's something where you want your people to have in-depth training because you want to be able to ask questions and engage with us and do panel discussions, we are available to do all of that and set that up and arrange it for you. So please, again, contact us and we'll send that information to you. I don't think we have any other questions. We don't need to.
I would just
No
add,
one loves to see our beautiful faces, but go ahead, Lonnie.
I would just add that if you need some heavy hitters to come in and bring in the cavalry, Neil and Kevin are available, and they do great work.
We love doing that.
Yes, yeah. And they certainly enjoy doing the work, most definitely.
All right, then. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for our brief Q&A. Again, we'll be posting a lot of the information on our social media platforms. Look for enrollment to be open on October 1st. And have a blessed evening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
God bless you guys.